Welcome to the Why We Move podcast. It's ironic that we're both wearing black. This is all black, so this is a one in the lifetime.
It's a safety and it looks cool. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. So let's get right into it, man. First of all, thank you. I want to say thank you to helping me out and not just only setting this up, but like being my guest, you know. And yeah, being just open to telling me all about your story with dance and just like being able to be vulnerable with me. So let me start off with some questions. Let's start with the big one, the Big Bang. Share with me your Latin dance story. What is the very beginning, if you can go right into it, with as much or as little detail as you want to share?
Yeah. It's funny because I didn't want to do this.
No kidding?
Yeah, because the only, right before COVID happened, there was a girl that loved salsa dancing, and I was like, you know what? Sure. Why not? I like this girl. And I was like, yeah, it was at Norse Hall, and did the class, and I didn't know what I was doing. And I was like, I'm never going to do this again. Left. I felt embarrassed. And then COVID happened in March. And then 2021 of June, same person was in, and she's like, I love this. Can you do this or something? And I was like, I'm going to take classes. I took classes in Clackamas for a month. I still felt like I didn't learn anything. And then all that stuff happened. And I went out to Aztec Willie's with a couple friends, and I was like, saw videos. My friends took videos, and I hated it too because I was like, that looks really bad. And my follower, like she was in pain. Yeah. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to keep committing to this. And then they started playing bachata because I was only doing salsa and wasn't doing bachata until the beginning of September of 2021. And it was at Oaks Park where Danny Jimenez was holding something outside. I think you were there.
I remember that. Yeah, yes. Actually, I do remember that.
Yeah, that was the first time I tried bachata and everything.
Kidding.
Yeah.
Awesome, dude.
And I don't know what happened. I loved it. I didn't like salsa too much because I felt it was kind of crazy, but bachata was easier, and I liked the music more soft, and it was more relatable because the music was more like they were making remixes and all these things, and I was like, oh, I like this. This is and so I started going. I asked my friend Alyssa too, basically, hey, do you want to practice with me? And she's like, sure. She's never done it too, and that's how she got roped into it.
One after the other, domino effect, right? Yeah.
And then she fell in love with it, and she's like, let's do this. And then the only thing we did was watch a bunch of videos, and I didn't know where to go. I didn't know where to take classes or anything like that. And I just wanted to get better. And there was like really nothing happening because of all the masks. And so that was kind of, I didn't know where to start. And even Alyssa was trying to figure it out too, because she's like, I don't know what a good lead is supposed to feel like, because there wasn't a lot of dancing either. There was like specific little things, places, I guess. And then I met, in January, I met Sierra, and we became friends, and Alyssa became friends with Sierra, and then we picked her head because she was like a really good dancer. And so we were like trying to figure out little things. And I remember practicing, and I would practice for hours. I would practice for 4 hours in the middle of the night from midnight to 4 a.m. because I was so committed to learn this. And that's where I started like getting the stuff faster and faster. But I still messed up so much because nobody was telling me my flaws until I started taking private lessons, and they were like, don't do that. let's fix your foundations. And but moving forward, I guess it was 2022. I remember figuring out what I was doing bad with my followers, because Lindy called me out because I was being too aggressive, and I was like, I'm so sorry. And I took it to heart because I was like, I don't want to be one of those people because I've heard so many stories about people being aggressive and but it took me more and more into like this kind of like rabbit hole. I wanted to get better and better, and I was basically looking for any source of what's it called?
Like help.
Help. Yeah. And for some reason, I didn't want to take classes like in the broad because I took workshops and it sounded familiar, like similar to classes like that because it would be a circle. I wanted to basically learn like one-on-one, like what is the right thing to do instead of like trying to figure it out with everyone. And so I was trying to be really intentional about how I was learning because I didn't want to spend hours and hours of doing the wrong thing, I guess. And so, but basically that's the journey into like in the beginning, it was basically because of a girl. And then it got into like an addiction and I would practice for hours and hours. And I like the music and
Nice.
I'm trying to get more into salsa, but I just fell so much in love with bachata.
Nice.
Yeah, but that's literally basically how I got in.
Wait, so I gotta ask, what happened to the girl? Did you just forget about her?
No. Well,
Like,
relationship.
I'm not gonna dance
No. It just didn't work out, and but yeah, it didn't work
sorry.
out. Yeah, it's all good, and basically I just moved forward, and I got addicted to it, and so yeah, but for some reason I got pulled from one dance to another because it started with salsa and then got into bachata.
Right.
And people were like, how come you don't want to dance salsa? I'm like, it's not like I don't. It's just, what's the word? I'm not familiar with it anymore too much as how much I practice bachata.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting, man. It's so funny that if you could call it heartbreak led you to this addiction. How long has it been since then now?
It's been almost 2 years,
2 years now.
because I started salsa in June, taking like the beginning of everything, of like it was June of 2021, and then I got into bachata in September. So it hasn't been 2 years technically in bachata.
Okay.
It's coming up. Yeah.
That's cool though, man. You
Yeah.
know, you're sticking with it, and maybe you should hit her up, that one girl, and be
Oh,
like, yo,
gosh.
thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome, man. Thanks for sharing that. That's I'm glad you're here and you're still 2 years, almost 2 years in.
Yeah, almost 2 years. Yeah.
So you had kind of described that you started with salsa and then you moved to bachata.
Yeah.
And you kind of like more, since you studied more bachata, to
Yeah.
dance more bachata.
Yeah.
For those maybe who are listening or who are watching, like who don't maybe know what salsa and bachata is, can you kind of go into like what makes each one of those kind of unique?
Yeah.
And at least maybe for you personally
Yeah.
as well.
I think the reason I kind of started with salsa because it was so energetic and was fun. The music was like, but I didn't really, I guess, relate to the music too much because wasn't a lot of modern music that I could like, but there's some. And the difference between salsa and bachata, I guess, is the footwork is different, but there's more energy and more control in salsa than bachata. It's more free, I guess, but you still have to be in a different control. I don't know how to describe it.
Sure.
But I feel like in bachata, it's easier to let go and then also be in control and so much. In salsa, it's like really bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really, it's hard to describe it, I guess.
I think just me, because I know it. I know what that's like. I'm out in the dance scene, and maybe the way I've kind of felt like it is I had a friend tell me this once. He said, but he said salsa is classy, bachata is smooth.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting because whether you want to call it one way or the other, like I think you really can't attribute a single word to a dance. You know?
Yeah.
Just because dance is art and art is just like not calculable or whatever word you want to say. But it's interesting because people describe it just much like you did, where there is a difference, of course.
Yeah.
But maybe for you, do you feel like you can express that energy, express the emotion that you're feeling in your body in different ways when you do dance?
Yes. I think the reason for it is because I got so used to the movement, and so it's easy to express. And yes, it's easy to express what I want to do in bachata than salsa because salsa feels I'm not. It's too fast in my head,
Right.
and so I'm like the basics seem pretty easy, but it's too fast, and I can't be in control like how I feel in bachata. So it feels like it's second, like it feels familiar, and then salsa,
Right.
it's talking. It's like talking to a different language, but they're from a different part of
Yeah, I see what you
Spanish or something.
Yeah, like a dialect.
Yeah,
Like different
dialect, and you're like, what? What's happening? I know what you're saying, but it's
Right.
Yeah.
It's so funny. Yeah, that's very much what dance is. It's just like a communication.
Yeah.
It's like always learning how to respond or how to take whatever it is that your person is saying or whatever.
And it's me and Alyssa, we were talking about this, and it's like trying to understand each other. And if you don't know how to communicate, it sounds like, hey, can you pass me the water and put it
Yeah, it's like a different.
yeah. And they're like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so funny. That's accurate. That's
Yeah.
very accurate. What about not even like to go off on this agenda, but like what about salsa might be confusing for you? Or maybe not. Like there's a block,
Yes.
you need to describe that.
I feel like I understand the basics, but I don't understand when to lead like a turn or like when is the right thing. In bachata, I feel like I already figure it out how to move someone in time or what it feels right, I guess, to the body, I guess, when you move someone. But in salsa, I still don't figure it out completely.
I hear you.
And so like a turn feels kind of like off, but the steps are right.
Right.
So I think it's more about the timing instead of like prepping, basically,
right.
but not doing the basics. The basics pretty simple. Yeah,
Gotcha.
the footwork and everything. I think it's pretty simple, but it's the leading that pulls me away from salsa, I guess.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, very interesting. I feel like I've had a similar experience with salsa. The way I can describe it for myself is like I have such a strong affinity for it. Like since I started dancing, I think salsa was one of the dances just growing up that my family would just always would talk about, and just like show it on TV and just be like, oh, that's dancing, And I was always like, that looks so amazing. I want to do it. But I always had this block kind of with salsa. And similarly, I had this like easier transition in with bachata.
Yeah.
But for me, salsa right now is something that I very much still enjoy. And I will still go on dance if I feel the energy for it. But it's something that I'm constantly trying to improve, which I think is a little harder for me in my brain versus bachata or versus something like kizomba or whatever. Like it's interesting because there's those dances that are just like, why is my brain confused right now?
Yeah.
I mean, like, why am I in a confusion with this when it's so similar to other dances?
Yeah. And going off on that one, I feel exactly the same way. I don't know why my brain doesn't like translate it, but it's funny. I feel like that salsa dancers and bachata dancers are kind of their brain works a little different.
Like left-handed, right-handed.
Yeah. And some of them can like translate both of them really well, but they also conflict with their styles of dancing because one is like really fast and everything, and people try to dance central bachata, and it gets kind of confusing about how control is. And
yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, you say when you said that, I thought straight into how a lot of people have interesting judgments about that. And at the end of the day, it's like we're all dancers.
Yeah.
It's like I think this is maybe more for the viewers to be like, it don't matter what you dance or what you love to dance, as long as you move your body and release whatever emotion you have. I think that's the most important thing. I think we can all move past whether you're a bachata dancer, whether you're a salsa dancer, or a zouk, kizomba, West Coast swing, whatever, ballroom, Argentine tango, like any of these.
Yes.
I think it don't it really don't matter at the end of the day. And I think people who have judgment, sure, you're entitled to your opinion.
Yeah.
But if it takes away from the dance, then I think that's a little toxic.
Yeah. I also think sometimes you vibe with someone, sometimes you don't.
True. That's true.
Yeah.
It's like out in the normal world too,
Yeah.
right? It's like, that's okay too.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
can agree to disagree.
I learned, somebody told me this, like, you're not going to vibe with everyone. Some people are just not going to like it, and other people are going to love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. As somebody who's now been social dancing for close to 2 years, what is it that you most enjoy about social dancing?
I think getting to know people more, because it's kind of weird, because when you go dancing, you get to dance with a partner, but you don't get to know them. But if you guys like vibe so well, they're like, who are you? I
Right.
want to get to know you and the story behind everything. And then you get clicked in a weird way. You have friends in Seattle, you have friends in like everywhere, and it's funny to see them all connected in a way, and they're so far apart, and he's like, oh, it's you. But I love to see when people, new dancers come in like this random place, and they're like, they get plugged into somewhere, I guess.
Yeah, like a community.
Community, yeah.
Yeah.
Because the communities are like kind of everywhere, but at the same time, everybody knows each other.
Right.
And so I don't want to be a part of a clique or anything. I kind of just want to be
Yeah.
everywhere, and it's so it's nice because I get to learn something new from anywhere, I guess. And that's
Yeah.
what I love, just getting to know people, I guess.
For sure. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing about
Yeah.
dance. I think a lot of people don't know, which is interesting because it's surfacing a lot now. But this community has been a community for the longest time, I feel. Like when people describe, like being in a community of football players or volleyball players or any other maybe kind of sport, whether you want to call dance a sport or not, no matter, but we still have a community and it's so interesting. It's like you can lean on somebody who out in Paris, France,
Yeah.
or in Tokyo, Japan, or in Lithuania, and like have a homie over there.
Yeah, yeah.
Simply because you have had this nonverbal
Communication.
communication that lasted for 3 to 5 to 6 minutes long.
Yeah.
But you have no idea, like, kind of a little bit at the beginning of like who they are until you start to manifest those
Yeah.
relationships and those friendships, like you said. And that's beautiful. I agree with you. That's like one of the most beautiful things about dance, and that's actually how I kind of got started, why I got started, and just seeking community where I didn't feel like I kind of belonged.
Yeah.
And it's such a beautiful thing to rely on people and like hang out, like especially like you and I, like we met dancing,
Yeah.
and then we got to know each other just by like hitting each other up and being like, hey, what's going on?
Yeah,
what you
yeah.
doing? Like talking more about audio, visual, and all that stuff, and knowing that you're a videographer, I'm a videographer,
Yeah.
and all this stuff. It's just like crazy.
And
But-
it's funny because community wasn't the biggest thing in the beginning when I started dancing. When I started dancing, Alyssa wasn't 21 yet. She was 20, and she couldn't come out
to the clubs, yeah.
into the clubs yet and everything. And so I had to push myself so hard to get because I live in Sandy, Oregon, so it's for 45 minutes to get here. And I would drive all the way here to Aztec Willie's or something to just dance 2 dances because I was so scared because I had no community. I didn't know anyone for the first 5 months or something. And I would come out and find something, dance, and then I would pull out and then go back out. And then I was like, okay, I'm good. I did it. And I left.
No kidding.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dang, man.
And I had to push myself to just come out for 2 dances. Yeah.
Wow.
And then after that, that's why it's so important, the community aspect, because you don't feel alone anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's so cool that you like drove all that way.
Oh, yeah.
Put on all that effort.
I
for
felt so
somebody.
intimidated. I would drink a beer before. I was like, okay, do it. Just and then leave. Yeah.
Oh man, that's crazy. Well, now you're here, like staying for the
Oh
whole
yeah,
time.
yeah. The whole time until like
Yeah.
1, 2 in the morning.
Literally, like
Yeah, yeah.
you're the first person. Like every time I go into Aztecs or any place, I feel like I see you, and I don't think I like go in that late at all. Maybe like 30, 45 minutes late, but like you're there, from the beginning of all the way to the end. That's awesome. That's commitment, dude. That's commitment.
I love it. Like I literally love every little thing. And I, for sure, the reason I practice now is not to be the best dancer. It's to have a good dance. I want my follower to have a good dance. And so that means I need to practice. Amen. And so that's why. It's not to impress or anything. It's to like connect better with my follower. And that's why I practice.
That's awesome. Yeah. Man. So share with me a little bit about that. I feel there's like a little deeper thing in there. Like why do you feel that?
Because in the beginning, I always got stares. In the beginning, like, oh, doesn't feel like, like when you start, it's always like kind of like, that's why I felt intimidated because I didn't know what I was doing. Yeah. And so the more I started to practice and the more I started to like learn these technique, it was better for me to like communicate. And I was like, oh, hey, it's like actually having a conversation. Yeah. And it felt more like, it didn't feel so like overthinking about every little, it's like talking to a girl, I guess. A lot of people would be like, oh, don't overthink it. And then when you actually like know, like you don't even know that it's a girl. It's like, just a person. Another human being.
Right.
But that's why that's the reason I practice, because now I'm just like, even with beginners, I'm like, I don't really care if you're a beginner. I just want to have a good conversation, or like, I guess a good vibe or a good dance.
Yeah, connection.
Connection, yeah.
That's awesome.
And so even learning how to lead a beginner is still a struggle, because you can't just do everything, but you need to know how to. Yeah. And they'll love you because they just want a good dance.
Right. I think that's what we all want, honestly, is like connection as humans. I think we all just care to be accepted, to be seen, and to be heard. And what better way to do that than like you being that usher to help them, to guide them in what is, genuine connection. That's awesome, man.
But that's the big reason. Even now, I still get shy, and I feel like.
You get shy, or
I get shy.
Okay,
I get shy.
It's all good. I think it happens to everyone. I get that too.
And that's why you'll see me in the corner, and people are like, "Oh, I didn't even know you were here. Like, come dance with me." And I'm like, yeah. It's just it's my insecurities in my head, but people don't know that, I guess. Yeah. And people like kind of think I don't dance with people just because, and it's just me in my head. I'm like, I just need to get out. Yeah. Get out from my head. And so, like, one of the worst things that I dislike to do is to ask someone, because I feel so insecure about that.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. But that has improved over
time. Yeah,
time.
It's improved, because in the beginning I would ask 2 people.
Right. And they go back up.
And leave back to Sandy, Oregon.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. And now I'm like, when I feel pretty extroverted and I'm like, okay, I'll go dance, and it just becomes a loop, kind of like, oh, I'm out. And I don't want to stop it. But there's times where I feel like I don't really want to dance. I don't want to ask anyone because I'm in my head right now.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And I think sometimes it's okay. Like I hear this a lot, and this was the narrative that I told myself as well when I first started dancing, that I just wasn't good enough, or I don't know, like what it is, just like that. I don't belong here, almost like imposter syndrome, in a way. And I feel like what is interesting is that you still fight that from time to time. I hear professionals, instructors, organizers, DJs, dancers, performers of all sorts and all backgrounds say that they still get shy.
Yeah.
And just like reserve. And I think it's a normal thing. I think like it's energy that we have in our body that for some reason is trapped or can't move. And when we do like make that first step to go and ask somebody to dance or get asked to dance and start moving our bodies, is when we start to release that a little bit. But I think it even has its own time and place. Like that to me is a little more of like introspective time for me. And I feel almost able to understand and go through emotions. Yeah. Where I think a lot of us are taught to like dance to move the emotions. And yeah, that's a beautiful thing. And I think it's a very important thing to do. But sometimes sitting in it is just as important.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
like giving it the time and space it needs to then erupt. It's like you don't rush a flower to bloom. Like a flower needs to encapsulate and then bloom
And yes.
when it's time.
Yeah. And I think a lot of patience between both follower and leader too. Because I'm like, if they're trying, then they're trying,
Yeah.
as much as they can.
Yeah.
I think. But yeah, on both sides, there's a little patient. And, even for me, even with the looks and everything, I'm like, I'm so sorry. When I started, I'm like, now I'm like, I feel pretty good. But it's still, it's demons that I still have to like, basically, hey, this is not real.
Right.
Just relax.
Yeah. Just go through. With beginners, who you do like to dance with and who are out there to seek genuine connection, what is a piece of advice to not only beginners who are dancing, but people who are also interested in dancing? Because I know a lot of people that I talk to, friends or coworkers or whoever it is that hop on my social media are like, they tell me like, oh, looks so cool. I've always wanted to.
Yeah.
I just never have. Like, what kind of piece of advice would you give to those people?
I think if you're about to start and you're going to do it, I do have like these opinions, I guess. Don't think about for the leaders. I don't know about the followers.
Okay.
The leaders, the fancy moves don't matter. Like all these fancy moves, if you can keep time, if you get your fundamentals right, you get everything. Your follower will love you anytime because you're on time.
Yeah.
But yeah, the fancy moves, it will take time.
For sure.
All these things. If you know your fundamentals, it's easier, and you will understand, and you won't feel lost, I guess.
Yeah.
And your follower won't be lost. You won't be lost if you know how the fundamentals work, and then you move. That's what I think. Advice for people to start with. There's a lot, I think, but
that's a great piece of advice, though,
Yeah.
because I think it's interesting because what the people who say that to me are like, oh, those are fancy tricks, or you got smooth moves or whatever. And it's like, there's a certain aspect, I think, where that part can live and should live in dance, but it's almost a crime to like just be to be attentive to that and only that, and like strive for that when you start dancing, because it'll only lead to mess ups, to injuries, even, to just like bad consequences, because simply you're just focusing on, I think, the wrong things at the beginning.
Yeah. And I think people kind of forget that you're dancing with someone.
Right.
Instead of like, I saw this video that Annie put, and she's like, this time is for you to make your follower shine and make them feel special and to feel like, oh, I'm actually communicating and I'm actually like doing this, instead of like doing these weird, cool stuff. Like if you know how to do it, then do it. But even then, like you're just actually like making your follower feel and not confused, I guess. That's the word I would say.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
as a beginner, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's interesting because you go out on a journey really on your own to go and find yourself in dance.
Yeah.
And like how to dance, what your style is, what you like, what you dislike. And you're also doing all that with another person.
Yeah.
So it's so hard to figure those things out while also trying to remember that there's another person. And like guaranteed, like beginning, it's hard. Like there's a lot of things that you're doing, especially I think as a lead, you're multitasking a lot.
Yes.
And the same credit goes to the follows with like understanding how can I listen to this lead who's also trying to figure himself out, themselves out. Themselves, I'm sorry. And it's just interesting because we are doing this all the time with somebody with us, and almost kind of like what you said with your story with Alyssa, like how she was also confused because she didn't really have guidance because you were also learning. And I think that's normal. It's interesting because we have to be present.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thing I tell anybody when they start dancing or beginners. It's just like, it don't matter like if you do these spins or these flips with your arms or whatever it is, dips or whatnot. That doesn't matter. What matters is like genuine connection. It's like, can you walk away from a dance feeling, wow, I was like so connected to that person. I can't wait to dance with them again.
Yeah.
Or are you walking away saying, man, I can't wait to not dance with that person again, or I hope to God that they don't ask me to dance again, because it's like it's Mr. Footwork or Miss Dips or the person who just wants to like shine by themselves, and it's like you're very much dancing together.
Yeah,
like, that is communication. There are times when you can shine on your own and shine on yourself with yourself, but for the most part, at least keep it connected. Smile, look up. Don't look at your feet.
That's one thing I had to break in my head. I'm like, I'm dancing with someone. I should be smiling because there's videos, I would say, or like of me like being like, I would not want to dance with you.
Oh, man, I feel that too, bro.
That's why I was like,
I feel that.
Okay, it makes sense. I was watching another video too. I watch too much Instagram. He's like, even performers, like you don't want to like not smile and like, what's it called? Watching a performance, and they would feel really like they hate us and everything.
Yeah.
But like if you would like smile, they're gonna be like, oh my gosh, it's going good.
Right.
Yeah. They're enjoying it. They're
exactly.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah. It's so like that was the biggest snap for me, like the biggest change in my dancing is when I started doing that consciously, actually smiling, like trying to have a good time, because that was also like a nerve-wracking thing. Like how often do you just stare at somebody's eyes, especially when you're touching together in a very intimate way and doing intimate moves? Like it's very nerve-wracking, especially I think if you're like already not so much of a social person, but I think there's also some comfort there. There's like a blanket of like there's a blanket where you can hide, where it's a dance and you don't have to talk because it's so loud and you're listening to the music together. So like that's kind of like a segue to be able to help yourself smile at somebody, but it is definitely very hard.
Yeah, I still don't know how to make eye contact completely like fully, but I don't do it completely fully. Smile, have fun.
Yeah.
And I think the other one is for sure not to stress out.
Right.
Like, I guess the more you stress out, the more your face is going to go.
Yeah.
Kind of like scared.
Yeah, you look scared for sure when you dance. Yeah, you're just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
What role does music play in your dancing? And how do you choose to connect to the music when you're on the dance floor?
Yeah. I've heard, I guess for me, I'm a musician. I love time. This is why I tried to do West Coast swing, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it because they run like a 6/8 beat on a 4/4 count, and you can go vice versa 4/4 count. And it kind of tripped my head because I'm so used to like a four count, depending on the music. And so music helps me, like, I feel like your body is like an instrument too, because it's like playing drums in a way, because you're isolating every part of your body, and drums is the same thing. You isolate, your legs and your limbs, I guess. And it's easy to play around, and just basically, if you know time, you can and technique, you can make your follower do some fun moves, and they're like, oh, I see what you're doing.
Yeah.
And but it also has to be on time.
Yeah.
And so that's why music helps to, if you know your beats. And it's funny because I've talked to a couple of people who are like, there's time? I didn't know there was time.
Yeah, it's like this weird magic thing that musicians, I feel like yourself probably know. Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, there's time. And I was like, oh, I thought it felt like the right way or something. And I'm like, there's a right time. And, it takes, other people can't hear it. And so it takes them more time to basically figure that out, I guess. Mm-hmm. And then the more you're as a musician, you feel like, oh, I know what is right and what's wrong on time, I guess. Yeah. But music helps so much to be more creative on your movements, because you can do these fun little things, and and then also follow a structure at the same time because that's your fundamentals.
Yeah.
And so I think, that's how I kind of see it. I don't try to be flashy as much as I can. I try to play around with the foot, like moving them on, like, the basics.
Right.
And then when there's like little pauses and stuff like that, I'll go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Yeah, being because I know you're very into music. You like
Mm-hmm.
know A, B's to Z's and ups and downs and lefts and rights and
Mm-hmm.
diagonals with music. So it's interesting to hear like how you put that kind of like count into your head as you
Yeah.
dance. It's similarly, I started with saxophone back in the 5th grade,
Mm-hmm.
and then I started playing drums all through middle school into high school, and then guitar and
Mm-hmm.
ukulele and a little bit of piano. And I think that really helped me a lot with dance, just like understanding structure. 'Cause
Yeah,
that's
sure.
that's what music does.
And it's funny, it doesn't help you to move your legs. Because that's what a lot of musicians would say, like, oh, if you're a musician, you can do this dance. Like, no, you still have to practice.
Yeah. Take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah. It's just a good tool, I guess, on the side. And like, oh, okay, now I know how to like combine them because
Yeah.
you still have to, any instrument, you still have to practice.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, let's wrap it up here. I want to ask you one last question. I think this is away from the agenda. What is the goal, the accomplishment, whatever it is that you look forward to in this next year with dance? Is there something specific that you're aiming towards, or you're just trying to have fun? What is
Yeah.
that?
For me, it's always been, it's crazy because I tell people like the only way you get better is to practice and to be able to like feel more relaxed. And I think for my agenda in dancing, I just want to be better to dance. That's not to be the best, because there's always going to be, like in the music world, there's always going to be better musicians than you, and and be really humble about that, because it's not. I just want to learn as much as I can from people, and I don't. If they give me something good, I'll take it, and I just want to learn. And this year is just about practice and about, if there's the opportunity to learn something really good with instructors, I'll take it. That's what I want to do, just to like connect better, I guess.
Awesome.
Yeah, and because that's what it takes to become a better dancer. And it's not that you're trying to be, like I said, not trying to be the best. It's just you just want to learn how to express, I guess. And because in the music, you'll practice, and it doesn't matter how much you practice if you sound like a robot.
Beautiful. Beautiful way to say that.
But eventually you learn how to do these expressions on music, and that's why people listen to you, because you're like doing something. And I feel like that's exactly the same way in dance. You practice and you feel like a robot because your body doesn't move the way feels kind of wrong in a way. Mm-hmm. And then you learn how to control parts of your body to the point where, like, when you dance with someone, you're not a robot anymore. You're expressing how you actually want to express yourself, and it reflects on your follower, because you're like, oh, that's so fun, that's so cool, and they want to dance with you more, right? That's why people are like, can you dance with me again, or like stuff like that, And these comments, like, it's so nice to like, it's encouraging, I guess. Like to listen to, like, hey, can you dance with my friend?
That is very, like, probably one of the best compliments.
Yeah, and I was like, yeah, I was like, sure. I was like, in my head, I was like, oh, that's so sweet of you.
Yeah. I've had quite a bit of, oh, hey, my girlfriend is here. Can you dance with her? And I'm like, yeah, sure. Like, that's fine,
Yeah.
It's of course it's all like platonic and whatnot.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like, it's just interesting. You never hear somebody be like, hey, take my girlfriend and touch her body and make her do things like on the dance floor. You don't see that in clubs. You don't see that.
No. That's so the opposite.
Yeah.
But I think that's my goal, is just to get as much information. And so like, even if people ask me, I'm like, I just want to show what I've learned, I guess, and help even, I guess in the dance community, if people have questions. And I always ask you, I'm like, I remember I asked you like questions like, what's too much tension? What's this? Or how does it? And it helped a lot. So like in my dance journey, I guess. Yeah, dance journey, because it doesn't stop.
It doesn't stop.
Yeah, I was talking to this guy, Justin, from Vancouver, and he said like, you're always a student. You're never technically a teacher, I guess, but there's always something to learn. And I was talking to Adrian too. He's like, there's layers and layers on your foundations. That's why you always go back to your foundations.
Awesome.
And I was like, yeah.
That's great advice. That's definitely a way to live by, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Ismael.
Yes.
This has been a beautiful conversation. Thanks for going into everything about movement, why you dance, why you move. I think you are how do I say this? A very, you are an example of somebody who I love to follow, love to just have conversations with, because I think you are very insightful in how you carry yourself and very self-aware. And it's something that I strive to every day to be. And so thank you for not only being on the show, but for also being a great friend and being a great dancer and spreading the love that you do.
Yeah. Thank you.